The Man He Killed by Thomas Hardy. Had he and I but met by some old ancient inn, we should have sat us down to wet right many a nipperkin. But ranged as infantry and staring face to face, I shot at him as he at me, and killed him in his place. I shot him dead because he was my foe. Just so, my foe. Of course he was. That's clear enough, although he'd thought he'd list, perhaps, off-hand, like just as I was out of work, had sold his traps, no other reason why. Yes, quaint and curious war is. You shoot a fellow down, you'd treat, if met where any bar is, or help to half a crown. So, let's look at this. I think this poem was written in 1902, or maybe just before. This is during the Boer War, and I think the main idea of this poem is the futility of war. Yeah, it's just pointless. It makes no sense. So, had he and I but met. So notice, had he, this inversion to say, if he and I had but only met by some old ancient inn, if we met near a bar or in a pub, we would have sat us down to wet, to drink, right many a nipperkin. So a nipperkin, this is a container for alcohol, like a pint pot or something like that. Yeah, it's a quantity of alcohol. I think it's probably referring to beer. But ranged as infantry and staring face to face. But, and here the but changes. In the first verse, he's imagining if he'd met this person in a different situation, they would have been friends. And then suddenly we're in the situation of a war where both of these people are infantrymen and they are looking at each other. They're face to face, probably in trenches, and staring, looking at each other face to face. I shot at him as he at me. So we were shooting at each other and killed him in his place. So, and I killed him. But notice this also says that the author's life was in danger. And I think it was maybe only luck that resulted in him being the survivor of this situation. And then the author starts to wonder, I shot him dead because... So why did I kill this person? Yeah? And he's trying to justify this killing. And then he says, because he was my foe. My foe is my enemy. So he was my enemy. But he's not very convinced by this, because clearly at the start he said, in another situation we could have been friends. Just so, my foe, of course he was. So notice this, of course. This is using this as a justification, but he's not very clear that this is a reasonable justification, because is he really an enemy? So, just so, my foe, of course he was. That's clear enough. So it's very clear that it was my duty as a soldier to kill him. Although, and now he's thinking about it again, oh my God, I've just killed a human. I've just killed another person. And he's trying to justify it. He thought he'd list, perhaps. So here, enlist, to join the army. So he thought he would enlist, perhaps. Offhand, like. So offhand, casually. Yeah, it seemed like a good idea at the time. You could make an offhand remark, a casual remark, without really thinking about the consequences. yeah, and this like, yeah, in an offhand way, in a casual way, just as I. So yeah, I enlisted because, well, I thought it would be a good idea at the time. Was out of work, so he didn't have any money. He was out of work. I was out of works. Had sold his traps. Okay, here, trap. This is a horse and trap. A trap is like a two-wheel carriage that is pulled by a horse. So it's like this day and age, it's like his car. So he was out of work. He needed money, and it'd be a good idea to enlist in the army. Yeah, he'd sold his horse and trap because he was out of work and a bit broke. No other reason why. So yeah, it just seemed like a good idea at the time, and he didn't think it through. And maybe I didn't think it through either, because now I'm going to have to live with this idea. Yes, quaint and curious war is. Okay, so notice this word quaint. Maybe you've seen this word quaint, meaning attractive because it's old-fashioned. But you can also use quaint to show that you don't approve of something, particularly an opinion or a belief or a way of behaving, because it's strange and it's old-fashioned, yeah? So, war is weird and curious. It's strange. Yeah, so how strange war is. Yeah, he's saying that clearly he has a dichotomy here. He needs to kill him, but it doesn't seem right. You shoot a fellow down, you kill someone, a fellow, a chap, a bloke. So you shoot a fellow down who you would treat, who you'd invite to a drink if met where any bar is, or help to half a crown. So half a crown, this is 2 shillings and sixpence, 12.5 p. Is that right? Yes, 12.5 p, definitely. Okay, so you'd give him half a crown, you'd give him some money, or you'd buy him a drink if you met him in another situation. So, the futility of war, yeah, and maybe the guilt you will feel afterwards for participating in a war. If you enjoyed the video, give it a rating, subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you soon. Bye for now. So, The Man He Killed by Thomas Hardy.